Hi, this is Makona Spokane, the leader and the founder of Church Governance Solutions. I'm dealing with the same topic that speaks about poisons that kill churches, some poisons that kill the churches and how to deal with them. And today I want to speak about poor leadership as one of the poisons that kill churches. And I want to speak about this because it's one of the poisons that really kill churches and it can be avoided. It can be avoided because it is actually dependent on the type of leadership that you put on there. It depends on the behavior of the leadership, the skills that they have, the knowledge that they have. And when we say a leadership is poor, it is really very poor. And if the leadership is poor, there's no way the church is going to survive. Now, more often than not, the decline of the church depends mainly on ineffective leadership. And of course, you would agree with me that when the leadership is ineffective, nobody actually see a way forward. Nobody see the direction forward because the vision should be driven by the leadership and therefore the people should follow in the church. And if there's no leadership or the leadership is ineffective, you're going to find the church that will die a natural death, and that becomes poisonous in the church. You can be a good pastor, of course, but a very poor leader as well. And I want to emphasize this, that being a pastor doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good leader. There are pastors that are poor leaders. And therefore, if a pastor realizes that they are not good leaders, it's very important actually that you realize that you're not a good leader. And when you're not a good leader, you need to make sure that you get some skills, that you get some experience, that you become taught, that you become led and guided, that you become mentored actually into leadership so that you be a good leader. But it takes, of course, ability to identify that you're not a good leader. And it's very sad that you're having people that are not good leaders, but yet they are not aware. And because they are not aware, therefore, then they cannot change. And they cannot actually subject themselves to learn, to be taught, and to be skilled actually into leadership because they are not aware that they're not good leaders. There are many courses of leadership out there. There are many seminars. There are many conferences. And of course, there are many books of leadership that actually can help when somebody is aware that they are not good leaders. I mean, people like John C. Maxwell, they're writing very good books. Miles Monroe, they've written very good books about leadership that one can refer to and therefore learn to become a leader, because a good leader is actually a learned skill that you can actually learn and become a good leader. But we must emphasize that being a pastor of a church and a senior pastor of a church doesn't necessarily mean that you are a good leader, because then leadership should be learned and you develop into that. It is very important that we know that when pastors are scandalous, when they're immoral, when they exhibit some poor relations skills and they display negative personality issues, it will speed up the decline of the church. It's very important that leaders are careful about their own character. They are very careful about how they live. They're very careful about how they relate with people as well, because that can affect the church negatively. If you're not careful and you are a leader, yes, you're running a church, but how you live is going to be very important. What you do is going to be very important as well to decide whether the church continues or it dies. This is very important that we look at it and say, therefore, be careful that you know that poor leadership will affect the church very, very negatively. And poor leadership has actually declined the churches, has actually killed the churches, has made the churches not to progress as well. And that is the effect of poor leadership when you're running a church. Pastors that are poor leaders will not work with and through capable associates. And some of them, poor leaders, are actually afraid to have capable people around them. But this is a very important skill of a poor leader, that you should actually be able to identify people that are skilled, people that know, people that are more knowledgeable about leading. Now, you can use the same people to surround yourself with, so that these particular people can actually help you of how to lead. Because sometimes as a poor leader, you can actually protect yourself by surrounding yourself with great leaders around you. And that's very, very important that you do so, because that will actually help you. They will demonstrate generally inferiority complex or sometimes superiority complex that we have seen in pastors that are poor leaders. They are either feeling inferior, feeling that other people are taking over from them. They're forever feeling threats of other people that are helping them. They are having threats of their own assistant or associate pastors as well. And that's problematic, because if you're not a good leader, you should actually surround yourself with people that are capable so that they can help you and to be able to run the church effectively with the support of those associate people around you. Now, this is very key, that you don't become also superiority or have superiority complex. Because there are those that have superiority complex of feeling that I know it all and I know everything. And therefore they would actually avoid actually relating with other people because they feel that they know it all. And now because of that, that will actually kill the church as well. And as incapable leader who is not strong leader, you will kill the church yourself. Superiority complex together with inferiority complex cannot be a good omen for a leader, because that will kill the church. Poor leadership skill is poisonous, and that systematically makes local churches lifeless as well. And we have seen this happening in many, many churches. And some of the leaderships that we're talking about is not the pastor himself that's having poor leadership. Sometimes it's the people that he or she appoints around them. When you appoint poor leaders around you, you may be a great leader yourself, but it becomes very difficult to run a church, because a church cannot be a one-man show. You need the people that will be able to support you. You need people that will be able to run the show with you. And those people should be as capable so that you can be able to run the church effectively. But some of the pastors, they are good leaders themselves, but very poor in appointment of leaders, and that becomes very poisonous to the church. And most of the churches are lifeless because of that as well. Now, the second poison that I want to speak about is what we call weak management. That's a poison as well to the church. That will poison the church to an extent of lifelessness or kill the church completely, a natural death. Weak management. It is true that the church cannot function effectively without strong leader. We have said that earlier. And therefore, managing the administration of the church or managing the church itself, it is somebody who's a great manager. However, many churches also found flounder because they have ineffective administration. Now, I want to speak a little bit about administration. Because if you are having poor administration, you are going to flounder as a church. You're going to make a mess out of it. Now, good administration is good management. And not every leader is good in administration. And this is very important for us to understand that administration and leadership is two different things. So therefore, effective administration and management is a good thing that's necessary. It may happen that somebody's a good leader but not a good manager. A good leader but not a good administrator. So therefore, in that regard, a great leader that doesn't have management skills or administrative skills should employ people that can administrate, people that can manage, and have them around you and let them surround you to be able to manage the church properly. Put them in strategic places, let them be able to administrate the church in a good way. Now, leadership without strong management, it results in theoretical idea-heavy and individual-driven churches. Of course, we have seen that, whereby pastors would manage with their head. They would actually just speak management from their mouth, but there's poor administration. And that is why we have seen many churches that are poorly administered, but yet they are led by great leaders. Now, great leader doesn't necessarily mean a great manager. As I've said earlier, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good administrator. But some of the churches becomes then very theoretical, they become ideal-laden as well, and they become individual-driven because the pastor has got ideas. The pastor has got dreams of achieving something. But they are failing to achieve because they are only having dreams to achieve, But dreams cannot be enough. And that's very, very important that we look at it and say, make sure that you are, as a leader, driven and not driven also, but administratively sound. And if you're not administratively sound, please employ people that can manage and administer properly. Management without visionary leadership as well leads to the ministry that is mechanical. It might be very, very passionless and predictable as well, and very limited as well, because there are times whereby we're speaking about administration and we're speaking about management, but the management and administration without proper leadership that is visionary, without somebody who's visionary, that's going to be very limited as well, as we've mentioned right now. It becomes mechanical, it becomes passionless, but yes, there is a vision, but there's no proper administration, or there's a proper administration, of course, then without proper leadership, then it becomes very religious, and most of the religious churches have got good administration, of course, but poor leadership because they don't have visions. Sometimes they have visions, but there's poor management. So all these two things work together, and it's very, very important that you look at that. Now, you must lead people and manage things well if you don't want the church to decline. You lead the people, you manage things right, including finances, including running of the membership classes and running the membership database, and all those are very, very important. So you cannot just lead the people and not run good structures as well. So administration of good structures, very, very important. So the weak management that allows the boards to accept the positions of the pastor, we have seen that happening. That there are sometimes when you're having leaders or administrators that are undermining the visionary, that are undermining the pastor himself or herself. And as a result, then churches, that becomes very directed by leadership boards, and they are not having vision, but yet the administration takes over from a visionary. That becomes a mess in that regard as well. So please be careful. There's a balance between leadership, which is visionary, and also the administration or the management of the church. That becomes very, very important, and we must emphasize that point. Now, constant changing and swapping of pastors and personality battles between pastors and trustee members or board members will serve as a death knell for any local church. And we have seen this happening, whereby the board is fighting the pastor is fighting the board as well. They just have no sync amongst them. There's no synergy in working together, and therefore we've seen many churches dying because of that. And please avoid that as well. I want to end up here today. Your host, Mykonos Bokani. Thank you very much for listening to us and being part of this great topic. And I believe strongly that you're enjoying it. You're sitting back and listening to it. We have got part 3 tomorrow coming. But remember also to like our Facebook page, Mykonos Bokani. Like our Facebook page, Church Governance Solutions. Remember our YouTube channel as well. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Be part of it and learn from this type of topics. And tomorrow, as we deal with part 3, you'll find it on our social media platform as well. May the good Lord bless you, and allow me to check out right here and say cheers for now.